Okay, so let's talk about Paddy Pimblett versus Kazula Vargas. This was the fight. A lot of hype. I mean, sort of the unofficial co-main event. I feel like a lot of people were sort of like really looking to this one, and in a weird way, I don't even know why the UFC didn't make it the co-main event. Right? Paddy Pimblett's a guy who has a ton of hype. I don't even know what other type of hype have you seen like this?
Well, I mean, like
Connor. Connor had crazy hype coming in like this.
Hamzat has like kind of this type of thing where even in his first few fights, they were like everyone's talking about him. Everyone's
but you know, with Hamzat, he doesn't.
It wasn't because he was talking, but
he doesn't command the microphone, so it's almost like
it was just the fighting.
Just the fighting is the hype,
but
right?
If you remember during like the height of the lockdowns, when they were the only thing in the world that was going on, he won his first 2 fights. Everyone was talking about him.
A week of each other.
And everyone was talking about him already. So that kind of reminds me of it. But it's definitely up there with very few guys in that category. O'Malley probably is another guy like that. Sean O'Malley. But very few. I like a handful of guys.
Sugar Sean's actually the one that I think is probably the closest, where it's a ton of hype. The difference is, like, I think Paddy's handling it in a better way than O'Malley.
Well, okay, so he is on the microphone doing a better job than anyone since Connor.
And not just the microphone, but everything from the walkout to the dancing to the energy to his social media.
Yes, that's what I mean. Kind of that stuff.
Yeah.
But in terms of the actual substance of him as a fighter, now I'm not trying to knock the guy. He's a talented fighter. But with Hamzat,
if you were, you probably could, as everybody that in the UFC that's won him.
He'd probably win, but I'd knock him a few times before he took me out. But with Hamzat, you see immediately the talent in the ring. This is why everyone's so hyped. With Sean O'Malley, you see the talent in his striking. This is why everyone's talking about him. With him, it's a little bit more like, look, Paddy's good and he's fun and he's got heart and he's got all this stuff, but it does seem to me like there's like just a lot of holes in his game where you're like, I don't know, now that he has all this hype, you're like, how quickly are you going to push this kid up the ranks? Because I'm not really sure he's ready to go win like big fights against ranked guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing, and it's not a knock on Kazula Vargas. I don't even know what his ranking was. Not a ranked guy, not one of the top guys in the division. 155 are a bunch of absolute monsters, right? And look, Paddy Pimblett he more than passed the tests, right? Both times now.
Yes.
He has 2 exciting fights. UFC debut, Luigi Vendramini. He got the knockout in the first round, and then his second fight, he was able to get the submission.
Both fights he was losing and came back to win the first round.
But says something fun and exciting, right?
Yeah.
So it creates these moments where it's like really, really memorable fights. He's coming out with this crazy walkout. He has these dramatic wins. Molly McCann jumps in the ring, and they're all fucking celebrating with each other. It's super, super energy. But we're not forgetting that in both of these fights, 2 guys that are not world beaters were able to get through and were able to fucking land on him in a very effective way.
And
both
he
fights.
got hit in this fight and then shot shot a desperation shot and then pulled guard. Now, he did get back up to his feet. He landed a judo throw, got on top, and
that judo throw was beautiful.
It was great.
But big mistake by Vargas to even engage in the clinch. When Vargas had him down, right, and was on top of him, he should have disengaged, got back up. When they got back to their feet, let him go. You just dropped him. You just dropped him. You have the clear advantage striking over this guy. He has a clear advantage in jiu-jitsu. Vargas has to be watching back the whole time.
It's the same thing, though. It's this kind of the same thing that I was just saying about Dan Hooker that you say there. It's very, when you're in there, no matter what, you hit a guy, this guy has so much hype, and now you just hit him, and now you're on top of him, and now you're like, fuck it, I'm on top of this guy. I'm going to fucking make him pay, and you fight, But you're right. In hindsight, certainly, you're right. But I like Paddy a lot, and I root for him. I root for guys who are good for the sport.
Him, and you hear Paddy's corner going, he's like, Paddy, put your head down. There you go, Paddy. And you're like, aren't you Vargas? You're going, oh wait, no, he's gonna do some shit right now. Let me disengage. Dude, it was fucking crazy to watch it happen.
Well, I will just say though, it's like, look, here's how I feel just looking at it. I go, for the sport and for my own entertainment, I'm rooting for this kid, and I love him. I loved him eating pizza in the post-fight interview and all this shit. But I also go, I'm just looking at this guy. I'm not sure I'm seeing the fighting, like, I'm not sure I see a fighter here who I go, this kid's going to tear it up in the top 10.
Also,
I'm just not sure I see
also
that.
playing devil's advocate, he's so young in his UFC career. I think if you were to look at a few guys in their UFC careers that were very, very early on, there's guys that became world champions that have losses, that look terrible, that didn't look good at all, right? Or had middling success. Jan Blachowicz, right? He was having trouble earlier in his career. So
no, that's true. But with the
Michael Bisping, the guy who every British MMA fighter put.
I think Bisping always looked great. That's quite a thing for you to say.
Bisping's always looked great, but the reality is,
I think Bisping always looked great, and you can catch me on tour with Michael Bisping, opening for him all throughout Europe, coming back to London.
Look,
but I just listen. I get what you're saying.
You got to give Paddy a little bit of time. The same way that Terrence McKinney last week, he lost
Terrence
that
McKinney
fight.
Terrence McKinney looks incredible, and he's a great person and a great friend. Paddy, I'm just saying, has so much hype behind him. And that's kind of the issue I have, is that when you have this much hype behind you, it's almost like they have to throw you into bigger and bigger and higher profile fights. And that might be the problem.
Or they can slow roll him like they've been doing with Sean O'Malley
They have done that with Sean O'Malley. That's a good point.
What is Sean O'Malley even doing? When is he fighting a fucking top-ranked opponent?
That is a very good fight. It'll probably be his next fight, but that is a fair point. They did slow roll Sean O'Malley.
But once again, I think it's a little different with somebody like Paddy Pimblett who has the country behind him. It is very interesting to watch. Is Paddy Pimblett the next big thing? I think it's just too early to say. Just too early to say. There's too little data out on him. Those two fights, super exciting. I want to see him in a co-main event next fight. I'd love to see it. I wish Terrence McKinney won. Because if Terrence won, they would be on a collision course toward each other right now. And I thought that was the fight that Terrence should have fucking been aiming for, right? That's a very, very winnable fight for him. Obviously, Paddy's got a great jiu-jitsu skill set, but I think Terrence is fucking super explosive, and I think his striking is nasty. So
I agree.
We'll see what happens.
I would love to see that fight.
Paddy Pimblett, an absolute killer. So, congratulations, and really fun to watch as well.
Absolutely. By the way, I don't mean to be, we talk shit on this podcast. We don't know what the fuck we're talking about, but I love this kid, and I think he's really fun to watch. I love watching him.